Good evening and welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our public hearing tonight. My name is Ryan Blazik. I'm with EGLE's Environmental Support Division. I'm just going to be helping to moderate this public hearing. And this is a hearing for the Damfino Development Project for the City of Muskegon and Muskegon County. Before we invite the rest of our EGLE staff to introduce themselves, I just have a couple logistical and housekeeping items to go through. This is what our agenda is going to look like today. We're doing the introduction right now. The big thing to keep in mind is there's actually two parts to this public hearing tonight. We have the informational session. This is where the applicant or the applicant's representatives will be able to provide some information on the project. This should last about 10-15 minutes, followed by a question and answer session. So you have an opportunity to ask questions on the project and application, and that'll go until about 6:30. And then we'll go through the ways to submit an official comment before kind of going through the second part of the hearing tonight. And that's the official hearing. That's where you'll be able to make your statement for the record on this project or application. And then we'll also go through where to find other information or who to contact with further questions. All right, a couple other things for those of you who haven't done a hearing with us before. All lines are going to be muted during the hearing. You can submit your questions using the question box in your Zoom toolbar at any time. Although during the question and answer session and during the hearing, we'll be able to unmute you so you can make your statement or ask your question. And then also we are recording the hearing. So the hearing will be posted on our YouTube channel in a couple days, and you can review it again if you'd like. And so with that, I would just like to invite our EGLE staff to turn their cameras and mics on and introduce themselves tonight.
Hi, everyone. My name is Audrey Kirk, and I'm the district supervisor in Grand Rapids, one of two district supervisors for the Water Resources Division. And my team is a team of 11. We cover 9 different counties and 6 different environmental protective statutes.
Hi, I'm Nancy Kincannon, and I work in the Grand Rapids District Office, and I am the project manager for this application.
Excellent. Thank you, Audrey and Nancy, for those introductions. And that's a good kind of segue into the first part of the hearing tonight, which is that public informational session. And we have some agents representing the Damfino Development LLC who are in the audience. And what we're going to do is find you in the audience and unmute you, and then you'll have an opportunity to provide a presentation. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. All right, Chuck, it looks like you're unmuted.
I am.
All right, thank you. And then Scott. And then, let's see. All right, Stu. So all three of you should be unmuted right now. You can unmute on your end if you haven't already. And I have your slides. And so if you just want to go through your slides presentation, just let me know when you'd like me to change slides. And then please just keep it to like 10-15 minutes for the presentation. It'd be appreciated.
Okay, this is Scott Musselman. I'm one of the managers of Damfino Development. I'd like to thank the EGLE staff and everybody who's here participating this evening for listening to this presentation and weighing in on the application. I have a few slides I'll walk through that describe the development and what it is we're asking for in our permit. And the slides will be available on the EGLE Michigan Enviro portal, so I don't intend to read them verbatim. Just by background, Damfino and Mycoast Properties are subsidiaries of SAM Products Corporation. So next slide, please. Here you see an overview of the development site. The area highlighted in green is the area intended to be developed. It's an 80-acre site. It's bordered by the Harbortown Marina Channel on the north, Muskegon Lake and the Edgewater neighborhood to the east, Harbortown condominium development on the west, and there's a critical dune buffer along the south side of the project. The access to the development will be through the former Bluffton School site. Historically, the site was a former sand dune and had been mined for many years by a Nugent company, which merged with Sand Products in 1930, and Sand Products has been the owner of the site since then. Sand Products continued mining until 1967, and the site has then sat in its current state since that time. Next slide. So here you see the plan that was approved in our PUD application with the city of Muskegon. If you note the highlighted orange area in the top left, just for reference, I'm going to go into detail about that later on in the discussion. So our plan is to create a new 12-acre lake that will have 1 mile of shoreline. There will be 240 residential units, including standalone home sites, a condominium building, and townhomes that surround the lake. 18 of the waterfront lots will have private docks, and 10 are intended to have boathouses. Community amenities will include a pool, fitness center, and pickleball courts, and amenities open to the public will include a 1-acre beach on Muskegon Lake, a kayak launch in the newly created lake, a neighborhood restaurant, and thousands of feet of boardwalk that surround the lake. Next slide, please. In our permit, there are 4 major items that we're addressing. One is the creation of a new inland lake. It's approximately 12 acres in size, and it'll have varying shorelines. There'll be a channel going into Muskegon Lake. There'll be 40-foot breakwalls on each side and a pier extending on one of the breakwalls. The marina component of the development includes the private docks and 98 marina slips that will be available for rent or purchase to residents or outsiders. And there have been 7.8 acres of wetlands identified on the site. The development as proposed will impact 4.6 acres, and we will be mitigating a total of 18.58 acres. 4 acres will be a newly created wetland on the site, and 14 plus acres will be mitigated off-site. Next slide, please. This slide just shows an overview of the inland lake. The area shaded in blue is the lake intended to be created that will include the marina. Next slide. The inland lake's going to have variations in shoreline. There will be landscape stone shoreline in areas of the development. There'll be some steep sheet piling. There'll be homes right up on the sheet pile with boardwalks in between the homes and the water that public can access and walk on. There'll be about a 900-foot natural shoreline buffer between the homes and the lake with a walkway through it for the public. And then you see an example of the boathouses we intend to create. Next slide. On this slide, I've highlighted in green the areas that will be the marina component. At the south end of the basin, there's a large pier coming out with docks off of it. There are docks along the steel sheet pile that are all part of the marina. And there are a few marinas in public green spaces scattered throughout the development. The docks shown in purple are those that will be private docks in front of private residences. Next slide. The channel accessing Muskegon Lake is highlighted in blue. And as I mentioned, there'll be 40-foot breakwalls on each side of that. To the north of that area, there are already a lot of remnants of the old sand docks, pilings that stick out into the lake. We intend to remove those, and there will actually be less impediment to the Muskegon Lake shoreline with the new channel than there is currently. Next slide, please. This slide highlights the wetlands that exist on the property, and those are shaded in red. You can see the large wetlands in the middle of the project are all within what's going to be the lake being created, the marina basin. The green area highlighted at the bottom is part of the on-site mitigation, the wetlands that we intend to create. There's a wetland up on the far left of your slide, which is actually the northwest corner of the property. That wetland we are not going to touch, and I'll address what's going to change in the plan to accommodate that. Next slide, please. This is an initial thought of what we would do, leaving that wetland in place, and we would reconfigure the roads and the housing along that area so that that wetland is not impacted. That wetland is contiguous with the channel next door, which is part of the Harbor Town Marina property. Okay, I think that covers everything I wanted to.
All right, yeah, thanks for providing that presentation, Scott. We're just going to go right into the question and answer portion. A couple quick things before we do. You can ask a question by either typing it in the Q&A box that you'll see at the bottom of the screen. So you can type your question in. You can also raise your hand if you want to ask your question verbally. And if there's anybody on the phone, you can raise your hand on the phone by selecting #2 on your phone, and that'll raise your hand. And then for the people who have their hand raised, what we'll do is we'll call your name and we'll unmute you on our end. And then you can unmute yourself and you'll be able to answer your question, or ask your question rather. It'll kind of go back and forth between the Q&A box and the questions. And another thing I just want to mention is that this is the time, if you have a question on either the permit application or the project, if you have a comment that you want for the record on the project or on this that you want to state, we're going to go into the hearing portion after this. So this will be the time if you have any questions. So you can feel free to type those in if you have any at any time. And then after this question and answer session, we're going to go kind of right into the hearing part. So I have a question that came in, and yeah, Audrey and Nancy, I'll direct these to you, and then you can feel free to direct it elsewhere if you feel it's appropriate. But the first question is, does a marina constitute a replenishment of a wetland? Does a marina constitute replenishment? I'm assuming creation of a marina, I'm assuming, but that's what the question is.
Are you asking us to address these, Ryan or Audrey?
Well, this is, you know, if Audrey or Nancy, feel free to direct it to the representatives for the applicant if you'd like. But I guess it's going to be directed towards EGLE staff, and then who then can direct it to you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan. I'll take a stab at that. If I'm understanding the question, or at least what I think the question's getting at is, would impacting a wetland, is there replacement value with putting a marina in it? I'm thinking that's what the question is, but I could be off on that. And we do look at those impacts differently. We actually have two different statutes that those activities are regulated under. So the impact of a wetland, the dredging or the filling of a wetland, is actually regulated under Part 303 Wetlands Protection. And then the creation of a marina, even if it's dredging out a marina from an inland area, that is actually regulated by 301 inland lakes and streams. So we've got two statutes at play here, and they, when we're looking at the impacts, we are keeping those in mind. So there are different requirements with wetlands. If you impact wetlands, then at a certain point, you have to provide mitigation. And so I would, and that mitigation, creating a marina wouldn't be acceptable forms of mitigation for impacting a wetland. So they are reviewed differently. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, and there was some, thanks Audrey for answering that. There was some clarification added. I think you probably nailed it, but yes, this is the question: is there's this is Musselman is suggesting that this is a new lake and therefore would be replenishing the wetlands that are being taken. And then yes, thank you for answering. Was the other comment from the person asking the question. Are wetlands, another question, are wetlands natural to this property or simply created by the mining of the dune?
That's a good question. When the state looks at wetlands, we're looking at what is there today. And so it's tough to determine exactly when wetlands show up, but the mining activities that occurred here had some impact to the landscape. This used to be a hill, but we have gone back and looked at historical aerials. The earliest aerials that we have, I think, in this area is the 1938 aerials. And so there are wetlands on this property from that time. But ultimately, what is important for the statute is what's there today. So we are looking at it as far as what is there, what's present on the site today.
Yeah, thanks for that answer. Looks like we have somebody on the phone with their hand raised, so I think we'll go to that raised hand. So phone in caller with the last four digits 5692. We're going to unmute you on our end, and you should be able to unmute yourself and ask your question. So 5692, the phone in caller. You're unmuted.
Yeah,
Should be able to
you
ask
hear
your
me?
question.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. This is really a design question for Mr. Musselman. The Harbortown Development Complex borders just about the entire plan that is being discussed. And so one of the questions that I'm sure many of us have here at Harbortown is, how is this going to intersect or blend in with the current Harbortown development?
If I understand your question right, it's how are we going to connect to the Harbortown development? And there are no connections other than an emergency access connection. So there will be on the south side, the mitigation wetlands create a buffer. And then as you'll see along the entire west side of the development, there's a buffer and the road between any homes we have and the Harbortown, and there will be landscape buffers created also.
Thank you. You answered my question. There will be landscape buffers. Per your comment. Thank you.
Thank you for that question and for the answer. All right. So I have some more that are typed, some more questions typed in, so I'm going to go through some more of those. Has the permit to build these townhomes already been granted?
There has been a PUD approved consistent with the plan that's shown.
Okay.
That was done in 1920 by the city of Muskegon.
Okay.
2020.
Yep, sorry.
Yep. I think we knew what you meant, but yeah, thanks for the clarification. And there's let's see here. What about toxins identified on the property? I guess anything to speak of related to any toxins or I guess pollutants?
We did test areas of the property. There are some piles of dredge spoils from when the Harbortown development was built that were dumped on the property. And there was one area that we had a hit of chromium, and that is being addressed.
Okay, thank you for that question and the answer. And then I think I have another question that might be related kind of on that topic. It says to Mr. Musselman, so the city of Muskegon is granted a brownfield redevelopment reimbursement for 25 million. It says, do you have paperwork or documents? I'm not sure if you can speak to that question at all as far as the brownfield development reimbursement. And it has a date, December 10th, 2019.
Yes, that was a result of the environmental testing and the high chromium level that brownfield designation was put in place.
Okay. And then we have a raised hand here. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute Jack Page. And then Jack, you'll be able to ask your question. So you should be unmuted on our end, Jack. You just need to unmute yourself by hit the microphone icon on the lower left hand of your screen. You can ask your question. Are you there? I think you were unmuted for a second there, Jack. Looks like you're muted again.
Okay, better?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, my question is to EGLE and to Mr. Musselman. Have any hydrostatic studies been done by either Damfino or EGLE or the Army Corps of Engineers to assure local residents that it is not going to adversely affect our water table and basically flood out every basement in Bluffton?
EGLE, do you want to take that first?
Sure. And Scott, you can add to what I say. But there was, back when the application was first submitted in 2019, there was some hydrologic studies submitted with that. And we are still reviewing that internally.
Yes, just to add to that, it was Lakeshore Environmental that did those studies. They have wells all over the property where they are monitoring water levels and did the hydrogeologic studies from those. Yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thanks for that question and for those answers. All right. Let's see, another question just popped up. The environmental toxins were not likely from the Harbor Town development, but rather from the original sand dune mining. And the question part of that is, are tax dollars being used to pay for the brownfield issue?
The brownfield is being issued through the municipal city of Muskegon efforts, not through this permit request. And whether those toxins are in fact from those spoils or from nearby, the effect is that residual materials on the property contain those contaminants. There's also many remnants of the existing sand mine, buried structure and whatnot to be dealt with during the excavation and dredges.
And I would just, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to address the tax question, tax dollars. The way a brownfield TIF works is it allows the developer to recapture certain development costs through incremental increases in tax revenue from the development.
And I would just add that EGLE does have the brownfield redevelopment program, but it is housed in the remediation and redevelopment division. So when it comes to water resources, permits, and applications, we will loop those staff in when we know that there's some crossover, but it is outside of our review process for this application.
All right, thanks. Yeah, thank you all for those answers and for that question. Are there any other questions? I think we've got to them all so far. I'll give a couple more seconds in case there are any other questions that people may have and they want to give it a shot. Otherwise, we're going to move on to the next part of the hearing, which will be where you'll have a chance to make a statement for the record on this project and application. And I'm not seeing any other questions come in. So thank you, Chuck and Scott, for the presentation and for answering those, and for our EGLE staff for responding to the questions, and to everyone who asked a question. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move on. But before we get into the hearing part, I just want to let folks know that there's other ways to submit an official comment in case you didn't want to make a statement tonight for the hearing. And we'll go through how we're going to do that in a couple minutes. But the other ways that you can make a comment are through EGLE's MyEnviro portal. You can provide those comments directly into MyEnviro. The submission number is HP2SN9T RC8V2. The link you'll see on your screen, and it is going to be put in the chat. So you should be seeing that pop up there shortly. And then you can also submit follow-up comments by mail to EGLE Water Resources Division, the Grand Rapids District Office at 350. That's 350 Ottawa Avenue, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 49503. And I should mention, I'll be reading this again a little bit later on tonight, in case you might have missed part or wanted to hear it again. And the comment period after the public hearing tonight will be open for 10 days. So that's through November 25th, 2022. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the hearing portion. So Nancy, I'd like to invite you to read the opening statement and kick off the hearing tonight.
Thank you. Okay, this is a little bit long, but here we go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nancy Kincannon, and I'm the district representative in the Water Resources Division of the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. I will be serving as the hearing officer for this public hearing on EGLE submission number HP2SN9TRC8V2. And with me tonight is Audrey Kirk of the Grand Rapids District Office, who is also the supervisor there. To describe how this is going to work tonight, I will begin with some background information about why we are here tonight. I will then describe the purpose of the hearing and how your comments will be used. Following that, I will outline the procedures under which we will take your comments and then describe what will happen after tonight's hearing. It will then be time for you to provide comments, and we will spend the majority of time tonight listening to those comments. At the end of the hearing, I will read the closing statement. By way of background information, the Water Resources Division is responsible for administering a variety of programs that help protect inland lakes and streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, and the Great Lakes. These programs regulate certain activities such as dredging or filling a lake, a stream or wetland, constructing a dam, constructing a marina, placing shore protection, or constructing docks, and building in a designated critical sand dune area, wetland or floodplain. The law governing those responsibilities is the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, 1994, Part 451 as amended. We are here tonight because Damfino Development LLC has proposed the following activities. Construct a new lake and residential development that will permanently impact 4.57 acres of wetlands and temporarily impact 0.61 acres of wetlands, measuring a total of 5.18 acres of wetland impact. In addition to impacts to floodplains and Muskegon Lake, including residential buildings with associated infrastructure, including driveways, roads, utility lines, stormwater basins, outfall structures, parking areas, sidewalks, boardwalks, seawalls, bioengineering, rock riprap, a box culvert, and a new marina that includes floating docks, fixed docks, finger docks, an open pile pier, breakwaters, a service dock with sanitary pump out facility, boathouses, spring piles, and boat hoists. In order for a permit to be granted, EGLE must find that the proposed activities described in the public notice meet certain criteria set by Part 31, Water Resources Protection, Part 301, Inland Lakes and Streams, and Part 303, Wetlands Protection of Act 451. In general, we must consider the effect of the proposed project on the lake and wetlands. When reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 301, Inland Lake and Streams of Act 451, EGLE is charged to make the following considerations as required by Section 30106 of Part 301. Number 1, the department shall issue a permit if it finds that the structure or project will not adversely affect the public trust or riparian rights. Number 2, the department shall not grant a permit if the proposed project or structure will unlawfully impair or destroy any of the waters or other natural resources of the state. When reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 303, Wetlands Protection of Act 451, EGLE is charged to make the following indications as required by Section 30311 of Part 303. Number 1, a permit for an activity listed in Section 30304 shall not be approved unless the department determines that the issuance of a permit is in the public interest, that the permit is necessary to realize the benefits derived from the activity, and the activity is otherwise lawful. Number 2, a permit shall not be issued unless it is shown that an unacceptable disruption will not result to the aquatic resources. And number 3, a permit shall not be issued unless the applicant also shows either of the following. A, the proposed activity is primarily dependent upon being located in the wetlands, or B, a feasible and prudent alternative does not exist. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to give anyone interested in Damfino Development LLC an opportunity to provide information that EGLE can use in making the decision whether or not to issue a permit. Please recognize that EGLE can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that EGLE must use in making a decision. Some of you may simply want to express your support or opposition to the project. We will be happy to make note of your position, but please understand that EGLE is by law not allowed to base our decision on whether or not there is widespread support or opposition to the project. In just a moment, I will outline the procedures we will use for taking your comments. But before I do so, I need to mention that the notice of this hearing was published in the Muskegon Chronicle on Saturday, November 5, 2022. As we discussed at the beginning of the informational session, if you have a comment to provide, raise your hand in the Zoom toolbar. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we will follow these steps. First, the applicant or their consultant has already had an opportunity to describe the proposed project. Second, we will then call on those who have indicated in the registration that they would like to speak. After that, we will call on those that raised their hand in their Zoom toolbar and they would like to make a comment if they haven't already been called upon. As a reminder, if you are participating in the hearing by telephone only, follow the directions of the moderator on how to identify that you would like to make a comment. You may also submit your comments to EGLE via My Enviro portal, which was My Waters. You can send them either by email or regular mail too. When all the comments have been completed, we will ask if anyone else would like to make a statement. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted. As you begin your comments, please state your name and any group or association you may represent. Each person will be given 4 minutes to make their comments. We will indicate to you when you have a minute left. Please begin wrapping up your comments and end within the allotted time. If need be, we will indicate when your time has ended. I ask that we all be courteous and respectful to one another tonight. Please also recognize that EGLE staff is here tonight to provide a fair opportunity for you to express your comments on the proposed project and to listen to those comments. This hearing is being recorded. Your comments will be part of the information EGLE will consider in making this decision on whether or not to issue a permit on the proposed project. The public comment period for this public hearing is open for 10 days from the date of this hearing, ending on Friday, November 25th, 2022. Additional information and comments submitted in writing during the 10-day public comment period will also be considered in EGLE's decision. Following the close of the public comment period, EGLE will make a decision to either issue a permit for the project as proposed or with modifications, or send a letter of denial. You may find out what the decision is by checking the EGLE My Enviro portal website and searching for the application number. Thank you for your attention. We will begin calling the names of those who have indicated they would like to make a statement.
Yeah, thanks for reading that, Nancy. Yeah, just to kind of recap a couple things. Yeah, as Nancy mentioned, I have a list of the folks who in pre-registration indicated they want to make a comment. I have 6 people on the list. So what I'll do is I'll call the person's name who's up and it's their time to make a comment, and we'll unmute them on our end. You can unmute yourself and then begin your comment. You'll have 4 minutes. Each person will get 4 minutes to make their comment. I'll give you a 1 minute heads up when you're 1 minute away from 4 minutes. If you're on the line and there's somebody else on the line that would like to make a comment, somebody else there, just let me know. And they'll be able to make a separate comment as well if they would like. Once we get through this list that I have, and there's 6 people on it, then we'll go to the people, anybody else who would like to make a comment. We're going to go tonight until everybody who wants to make a comment has made a comment, and you can just raise your hand in Zoom. Just click the hand icon to raise your hand in Zoom, and we'll call on you in order after we get through this list. If you're on the phone, again, you raise your hand in Zoom by selecting #2 on your phone, and I can go through that again when the time comes. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started with the first person on our list. And that person is Scott Musselman. Scott, did you have a comment, or did you just register so that you could provide your presentation? We're going to unmute you, so I guess to know for sure.
No, thanks, Ryan. I had just clicked that to be able to comment and make the presentation.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Just wanted to confirm, check. All right, so next up is James, or first up then is James Riley. We'll unmute you, James, and then Jack Page is going to be up after James. So James, we're going to find you in the audience here. And then unmute you.
I do not see James, but I do see Jack.
All right, so so go past James, and Jack will unmute you, and then after Jack, it's going to be Matthew Farrar. So Jack, you can begin your comment when you're ready.
Okay, my reservation with this project mainly has to deal with the marina portion. Unless EGLE and Damfino LLC can provide unsubstantiated data that the hydrostatic digging out of this marina will not adversely affect property owners, the water levels under and around their homes, I would respectfully request that EGLE would deny the permit until those facts can be found.
Okay, thank you for your comment, Jack. All right, next up is Matthew Farrar. Apologize if I'm not pronouncing that correct.
Thank you. Hear me?
Yep, you can begin when you're ready.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy, everyone at EGLE, for giving us this time to speak. My name is Matthew Farrar, like the actor Farrah Fawcett, and I am the Deputy County Administrator. We've been familiar with this project for quite some time. We've been anticipating this for years. And I'd just like to point out a few things, and I don't mean to trespass anybody's time, but I'll make this brief. The County of Muskegon, several cities, the Community Foundation, GMed, Wimser-Dick, and others have engaged with a national firm to perform a housing study. While the results are not in, we know well over 1,000 new homes are needed here in Muskegon County. This project addresses this. One of the issues we have when it comes to development is, excuse me, is many projects head out into the townships. They clear trees, they clear fields. They require substantial public investment in infrastructure, and they contribute to urban sprawl. This project does not do that. This project is using fallow property that's been fallow for over half a century. This project will expand access to and increase recreation on Muskegon Lake. We feel at the county this is definitely the highest and best use for this fallow land. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment, Matthew. All right. So next up is Yvette Geddes Butler. So Yvette, and then after that, Terry Sabo. So Yvette, you're unmuted on our end. Feel free to unmute yourself and you can make your comments. And you should see a microphone icon in the lower left. Nope, looks like you're unmuted.
Hi. Yeah, I see it. I'm not going to be on here long. I'm listening, and I've been watching the developments over there in that area, and I disapprove of it. I really do, because what you guys are doing, to me, my personal opinion, and that's just not mine, but other people, y'all taking away the spots for the elderly. And what I mean by that is that that was one of their fishing areas, you know what I'm saying, where they would go and fish. We can't go to Heritage Landing and be comfortable, because you got the cruise ships coming in during the summertime. So when the cruise ships starts coming in, then you got the festivals coming in. So the Heritage Landing is really just out the question. I understand what's being done. You know, I understand bringing the money to the city. I understand building the city up. I came here in 2011. I loved it then. I love it more now. But the way I see it is money talk. And I think they're just unfair to the elderly people. I fish for an older lady because she can't come down there and fish for herself, because there's no way for her to fish. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how I feel. You know, don't take away from the people who helped build this city. And to me, that's what y'all doing. That's what y'all doing. We don't need another boat dock. We got boat docks that people don't use already because they say that's too high. How's this gonna be any different? What about the condos that's coming down there? Build houses, build up on the houses down here in the city already that need building. They need building up and fixing up. You know, stop looking at the people. Muskegon is not just downtown Muskegon. You know, so that's the way I feel. It's just not downtown. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. People said we surround Mona Lake. You can't really eat the fish out of Mona Lake. No. People do, they get sick. Okay, but I don't. I've seen the fish. It's horrible. But the Lake Michigan over there and down there at the channels, too many boats and things. I mean, you see my whole idea, fishing. You know what I'm saying? But not just that, just taking away from the people who helped build the city in the first place. Ain't nobody got no money for no condos. Ain't nobody got no money to buy no boat. Everybody can't afford it. You know what I'm saying? That's so, you know, just think about other people. That's what I do. I've been in healthcare for over 30 years. I think about other people, not just myself. Thank you. I'm done.
Yeah, thanks for your comment on that. All right, and then the last person on my list who indicated in pre-registration they want to make a comment, Terry Sabo. All right, Terry, you're unmuted on our end. Feel free to begin when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, sounds good.
I'm using a brand new computer. This is the first time I've been on a Zoom with this computer, so I was a little worried about that. My name is Terry Sabo. I am the current state representative that covers this particular area of proposed development, and also a lifelong resident of the area as well. And I have been watching this particular project move forward for many, many years. I've actually been engaged in several conversations with those involved with the project, as well as other community members and municipal leaders in the area. And one of the things that jumps out to me, while I certainly respect the expertise and the ultimate decision of EGLE when it comes to the environmental portion of this, I want to talk really more about the economic impact, much like our county's deputy administrator spoke of earlier, in how much of an impact that this will have from that economic development standpoint for our area. With the additional housing that is proposed, obviously that addresses some of the housing shortage that we have in our area, as many municipalities do across not only Michigan, but across the country. But also it really will help out the municipality with increased taxable values and add to the recreational boating presence that we really depend on here in the Muskegon area, using the additional accessibility to Muskegon Lake and then ultimately Lake Michigan. Now, this is one of the largest housing developments in our area, probably in decades. And it'll be using, as what was mentioned before, a lot of the infrastructure that's already in place in surrounding properties. So I definitely I like the sounds of that and the work that's been done there. But I think in closing, I want to just really stress the importance of having good community partners. And from my experience over the last several years, that the individuals that are involved here are all had a strong history of being a good community partner, and really with the environment in mind as well. So I really do support this project, and I just want to stress the importance of that cooperation, and that I know that these individuals that are involved with the project, as they have in other projects in the past, they've always been definitely willing to be full cooperation of getting things done, and even if the permit needs to be adjusted or modified, I have no doubt that this group is definitely willing to listen to how that they can work with EGLE to make that happen, to ultimately have this project go forward. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak, and I look forward to hearing the outcome of what your decision is.
Thank you for your comment, Representative Sabo. All right, now at this point, if you didn't hear your name called, please raise your hand in Zoom. And if you registered but didn't make a list, you may have registered before we checked it, but just feel free to raise your hand. If anybody who is listening, who's calling in by telephone, and you want to make a comment, please select #2 on your receiver or on your phone, and that will raise your hand in Zoom, and then we'll call on you in turn. So with that, the first person who has their hand raised is Lauren Page. So Lauren, we're going to unmute you on our end. Feel free to unmute yourself, and you can begin your comment when you're ready. All right, looks like we unmuted. Yep, looks like you can begin.
Yeah, so there are actually two of us here. So Lauren Page, who lives right adjacent to the property in question, and Paul Abbott, who lives just down the street in the Bluffton area. And one of the things that I've been concerned about for some time, and I just haven't seen it addressed in the plans that I've seen, including the PUD that went to Muskegon County, the city of Muskegon, was there does not seem to be a water runoff area except for the boat basin, and the boat basin opens into an open waterway. And so, you know, the water runoff from that community does not have an area that actually can make sure that the water that's coming from the properties, the sidewalks, the driveways, the roads, are being processed properly before they go out into the open waterway. And that's a big concern. And I've seen development after development along the shoreline that has to have, you know, big runoff ponds for that to happen. And I just don't see with the density that's happening in that property that they can have that kind of density and have a proper water runoff as well. So I really would like to see that addressed, because that's a big ecological concern. That's all.
Right. Thanks for the comment. Did you say there was somebody else who wanted to make a comment there at all, or no?
No, he's just with me, and we were talking about it earlier.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for the comment. All right, Benjamin Evans, we're going to unmute you, and then you can unmute yourself and begin your comment when you're ready.
Hi, yeah, I just want to register my formal opposition to this project for the record. I keep hearing about a housing shortage. And I think we need to remember that these are townhomes that are being constructed, probably about $300,000 each. I don't think they're going to fulfill much needed housing shortage for anyone incapable of living somewhere else at that price point. I also think there's a great deal of unnecessary complication that this project entails. Questions like the water table and flooding. This area has been known to flood. In fact, has twice pretty badly in the last 5 years. And I'm yet to hear any convincing kind of studies that suggest that this project won't lend to that happening again. You mentioned that the issuance of this permit is, if it's not in the public interest, then it won't be granted. And if it will irrevocably ruin wetlands, it won't be granted. I don't think it's in the public interest. You can ask anyone who lives around here. Heavy machinery will be running behind our houses for 2 years. That's granted. And make no mistake, the wetlands this will impact and destroy are thriving. Back behind the house where I walk, where this project and these townhomes will be constructed, there are red foxes, fowler's toads, puff adders, eastern cottontails, snowy great horned and barn owls, red-tailed and Cooper's hawks, bald eagles, American kestrels, peregrine falcons, prickly pear cacti, blue leaf willows, sand cherry shrubs, cottonwoods, jack pines, black oaks, red maples, white cedars, hemlocks, and balsam firs. It's thriving, and it's taken 50 years of being untouched to get back to thriving the way it is. And now we're going to rip that all down again if you do issue this permit. I just think this is unnecessary, and it's a project that will line the pockets of a few people while leaving the rest of the public stranded with, like that woman mentioned, less space to enjoy the recreation that is the real treasure of Muskegon. So I thank you for listening, and thank you for the time.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. All right, next up is Jim Stuck. So Jim, you're unmuted on our end. Looks like you're unmuted and can begin when you're ready.
Yes, this is Jim Stuck. I am a owner of a slip at Harbortown Marina, the neighbor to the north. Initially, I can't speak for the marina as a whole, but we had some concern with a shared channel, say there in the added boat traffic, as we already have an excessive amount of traffic there with the 2 marinas and the restaurant that's already there, plus all of the looky-loos. But in general, we travel 2 hours, say each way every weekend to enjoy the hidden gem, if you will, of Muskegon and Muskegon Lake, and are very avid sailors. And this is a phenomenal project as far as we're concerned. It's an appropriate use of the property. I hear the concerns from both Jack and Lauren, say on the impact of water, and I think that needs to be addressed. But again, it's great for the community. It's going to, say raise the bar in a lot of, say areas. And again, we're just, supporters as guests of your community.
All right, thank you for your comment, Jim. All right, Mark Paletti. Mark, we're going to unmute you. Then you're next to give your comment.
Hi, this is Mark Paletti. I live in Bluffton neighborhood there. We're going to be directly impacted. There's only one way out of this proposed subdivision. It'll be through our neighborhood. And these are people that have lived there for many years. I've only had the privilege of living there 10 years, but all the traffic is going to be funneled through our neighborhood over what was a protected sand dune. Recently, when they cut the trees down after they blighted the school to open up the area for them to have that passage in and out, we had flooding that was so terrible, and it lasted for months and months and months, that I could kayak down Edgewater. We wanted to rename it to Underwater instead of Edgewater. There was so much water there, I could kayak up to the benches we had on Muskegon Lake. And with climate change, or climate emergency, we should call it, I don't see anywhere anyone talks about the water levels going down. Everything is going up. So I think, you know, a lot of us stand to lose our houses. We already lost a couple people in the last, couple houses were destroyed in the last flooding. So we're susceptible to that, and it will be a nuisance to all of us, because all that quiet area, all that area that we prize and love is going to be gone, and we're going to be listening to people. And where I lived before this was Boulder, Colorado, and green space was highly valued and sought after. And I think Muskegon is making a big mistake with the idea that by packing a bunch of people into a very beautiful wilderness area is somehow fortuitous to us. And then the whole point of these people being good actors, I think they received a brownfield grant on property, and I think they've owned the property that when it was polluted before this. So how can we trust them with the future of our neighborhood? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your comment, Mark. All right, is there anybody else who would like to make a comment? I don't have any other hands raised right now, but we'll give it a couple seconds in case somebody would like to. And then I'm also going to read off those other ways to make a comment again, so that'll be what's kind of up next after this part. If you're on the phone and would like to make a comment, just select #2 on your phone, and that will raise your hand in Zoom, and then we can unmute you and you can make your comment. I'm not seeing any other hands raised at the moment, so we will move on to that part. Nancy, did you want to read the closing statement for tonight?
Yep. Thank you very much for your comments and cooperation. We appreciate your interest in the proposed project and that you took the time to be here tonight. As indicated at the beginning of the hearing, you may submit additional written comments until November 25th, 2022. Following the close of the public comment period, we will consider all comments received and make a decision on the proposed project. Just to remind those that may still want to submit a comment, comments can be submitted via My Enviro portal. You can do it either by email or US mail. The hearing is now officially closed, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for reading that, Nancy. And just to kind of add to that for the people on the phone, yeah, the submission number is HP2SN9TRC8V2. Again, the link to My Enviro is in the chat for those who are on the line on your computer right now. And then also I'm going to give you the address by mail, so you can mail in comments for the people on the phone. It's EGLE, Water Resources Division, Grand Rapids District Office, 350 Ottawa Avenue, and that's OTTAWA Avenue, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 49503. As Nancy mentioned, the comment period is open for 10 days, which is through November 25th, 2022. And then if you have further questions, you can contact Nancy. Her contact information is on the screen here. Nancy Kunkanen, Environmental Quality Analyst, her phone number is 616-690-1229, or by email at CUNCANNANN@michigan.gov. That's Michigan spelled out .gov. And so that kind of takes us to the close of the evening. Audrey, did you have any closing comments for us tonight before we sign off?
Sure. I just wanted to add that if you have already submitted comments to us during the 20-day public comment period, You do not need to repeat those, but as mentioned earlier, if you have additional comments, we would love for you to submit those through those multiple ways. So thank you everyone for being here. We really appreciate it, and have a good night.
Yeah, thanks Audrey and Nancy for being part of the hearing. And as Audrey mentioned, everybody else on the line. The last thing that I have is just a reminder that this public hearing is recorded. It'll be on our YouTube channel here in a couple days, so you can review it at that time if you'd like. So with that, thank you very much. I hope everybody has a great rest of your evening. Thanks again.